Hello there. The UK population is now split along so many lines, it's hard to see a way out. What a mess. This nation of ours has been totally split asunder along so many self-generated fault lines. And those fault lines are not geological ones. They are all fault lines in the minds of all those who live here. We have internal nationalist fault lines. We have supranational fault lines. We have sectarian fault lines. We have cultural fault lines. We have race fault lines. Appropriate clothing fault lines. We have woke fault lines, etc. And we have a silent, now forcibly silenced majority that is meant to just suck it all up. We have reached the point where the establishment feels forced to crack down on any dissent about the formation of this ever more balkanised country. Or is it a point they knew would inevitably arrive and are acting accordingly? No attempt is being made to understand this particular phase of our nation's history, just the paramilitary police baton and shield approach and fast-moving, highly public court cases. Instant justice, as they call it. Instant justice that has not been applied against the rampant knife crime across our country, nor the hideous level of shoplifting, nor the atrocious grooming scandal. And what happened to all that grand Labour talk of raising billions through setting up a team to recoup all that pandemic fraud that ripped the heart out of our taxes? That's fizzled out, hasn't it? Now I will ask a question no one else is asking about these court cases. If the far-right EDL is the big menace that the weak, wet woke keep bleating about, then why is it not mentioned as the cause in any of these riot trials? Why is it not quoted in any of those trials that defendants are saying that a certain Mr. Robinson was their inspiration to riot? Where is all of that? Had there been just one single mention by a defendant of either during the police investigations, it would have found its way into the mainstream press and be plastered all over the World Wide Web. Wouldn't it? So I thought I'd just point out that huge anomaly in the room. I'll leave you to ponder on that one. Then there's the insidious false story being spread by the left that someone from the far right had thrown acid at a woman. A completely false rumour that may well have contributed to some of the more ignored violence and potential rioting. But what we see on that particular issue is just slowly rolling tumbleweed. No fast-track courts for them, it seems. And in 2022 it was completely okay for pro-Palestine demonstrators to have a vehicle convoy full of people shouting that something should be done to Jewish daughters. They had their charges dropped. It may have been the Tories in government for that 2022 case, but it was the same uniparty establishment. Where is the justice done and seen to be done in any of those? And it's all now currently presided over by the person who likes to think of himself as one Tia Keir. And there are copious other very recent cases too, which you can find on X if you just look for them. So what's caused all these divisions? Well, there are just about as many opinions on that as there are people in this land. But they all seem to revolve around the concept that the UK is basically a massively racist country full of nasty people. So we must protect all minorities at all and any cost. And the nasty people must be forced by all and any means into full compliance. And successive governments have been hell-bent on pleasing every single one of those minority opinions to get their votes. But both the red and blue cheeks of the same derriere are blithely thinking that they can rely on their core voters. Well, that's just been holed below the waterline in the last election as far as the Tories are concerned. And right now Labour is making the same mistake. The red-blue uniparty vote is collapsing, and collapsing fast. Something that would ruin some very carefully laid plans. If, for example, a party like Nigel Farage's Reform UK were to hit the ground running in the next local elections in May next year, it could return a shock result. We could well see the collapse of red and blue uniparty support and the election of whole new political forces. Reform UK and many more sectarian results as well. And with every passing year, this will get more and more pronounced. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that the way our uniparty governments have handled immigration and multiculturalism is the key factor. It occurs to me that our political masters are of the view that if they just open the borders and smash us in the face with diversity and enforced integration, all will somehow work out well in the end. And right now we're seeing the repercussions of it. With Keir Starmer, for some reason or other, taking the draconian legal route to try and quell any action, word or even thought of doing anything to get the state to change its course. So here's a quote from Cicero for you to ponder on. "The closer the collapse of the empire, the crazier its laws are." Does that sound familiar? And morphing one of the oldest and most respected legal systems in the world into a set of organisations that gleefully hunts down and prosecutes the government's majority voter and taxpayer base is crazy indeed. Now, the last thing we need is any more violence. It just leads to more violence, to the worst case scenario of the destruction of our whole society. But cracking down on just one side only reinforces the divisions. In fact, it's worse. In this case, it just makes the majority feel they are the ones being attacked by the state itself. The only way to rectify this is to get behind a certain Mr. T's huge and peaceful Unite the Kingdom rallies, like the one on the 27th of July. And the bigger these rallies are, the more likely people are to vote to break the cycle of destruction caused by the Lib Lab Con Green uniparty state. If you want to see a massive change in direction for our society, a massive change to unify the kingdom and not divide it, then attend the next Unite the Kingdom rally. And if you can, please do donate what you can afford. These things are not cheap. Because unlike the UK uniparty state system, that Mr. T won't have huge numbers of city and union vested interests lining up to fund those rallies, and he's very unlikely to get a central or local government grant for one. So I'm afraid it's now up to us, the little people, to do what's necessary. Fund the rallies and attend the rallies.